Doom Patrol returned this week to our app screens for its big Season 2 finale. Well, finale in as much as they couldn't actually finish this season properly due to that whole virus ravaging the globe thing, so they only had 9 episodes done. But for what it's worth, this episode was called Wax Patrol. By now, you should probably know I'm Cape Joel, and this is the video series where I give my thoughts and feelings on the episode that was, as well as shouting out any comic book Easter eggs I can find. So with that out of the way, let's get to it, shall we? So then, picking up from where last week left off, Jane had been betrayed by Miranda and pushed into the well. From there, we actually managed to get treated to a pretty sizable and pretty important segment dedicated to showing us the fall of Miranda and the rise of Jane. As we can see, in the summer of '69, Miranda was still the primary persona, and it actually looked like she was making great strides in her life. She had met a nice hippie guy and they moved in together, and for a second it even seemed like Miranda was going to get over her past trauma and intimacy issues. The ones that still stem very much from the traumatic abuse Case suffered as a child. The best part about this segment too is this overall feeling of dread we as the viewer have, because we know full well none of this worked out and it's all gonna come crumbling down, but more on that in a minute. Back in the present, Cliff is wondering what he should wear to his daughter's wedding, considering he only owns punk band t-shirts, apparently, as we discover this episode, all picked out by Jane herself, which is a nice little wrinkle in their relationship, don't you think? This is also Cliff meeting Miranda for the first time, and just like everyone else, he is similarly charmed by her. But unlike the rest, still very much cares what Jane thinks and where she is right now. Over with Vic too, we see him dealing with a broken heart in the aftermath of Ronnie showing her true colors in the previous episode. Rita tries to get him to cheer up, after all she's feeling pretty bad too, as she also wasn't able to stop Ronnie. For what it's worth though, I will say Cyborg's taste in sad breakup songs is 10 on 10. In fact, all the song choices in this episode were amazing. I feel like overall we actually got less songs in Season 2 than we did in Season 1, but maybe they just blew the whole budget here in this episode, I'd believe it. Cliff's wedding plans end up getting hijacked when one of Dorothy's imaginary friends lets them know what's going down with the Chief and the Candlemaker. Crazy to think it took them 9 episodes for the whole team to actually get up to speed on what's going on. Then again, part of the Doom Patrol's characters is that they are always so consumed by their own personal issues all the time that it's hard to see the outside world. At first, Robotman wants nothing than to leave Niles to rot after the whole getting shot out of space thing a few episodes back, but eventually the rest of the team is able to get through to him. Like it or not, this is your family, and if you want to prove to your daughter you're worth a damn, you'll help people who need it. This is also one of those the whole world is in danger situations, and surely if it was meant to be, your daughter will understand blowing off her shotgun wedding to save all life on Earth. The second half of the episode ends up taking place in a wax carnival that is wonderfully twisted and crazy. Robotman says it's like disappearing up Disney's asshole, and I do believe that this is the first of what will be a couple Disney references. Now, how on earth, you're probably wondering, does the Candlemaker choose to fight? Well, it's super creative actually. The Candlemaker weaponizes the team's imaginary friends against them, except for Larry, who claims to not have ever had an imaginary friend, which I honestly thought was going to be more important to the episode than it ended up being, because Larry just gets waxed anyway. We can actually read a ton into the different members of the Doom Patrol psyche by looking at their imaginary friends. For Rita, it's a paper doll, a pretty thing made from magazine cutouts that Rita aspired to be as a child, but threw away after she got famous. The doll also just so happens to have the eyes of Rita's mother, something that still haunts Rita to this day. Also, hey, a paper doll is brittle and fragile, while Rita is stretchy and blobby. They also don't fight in a traditional sense either, as the doll challenges Rita to a tap dance battle. And hey, speaking of parental issues, Vic's imaginary friend is a guy called Dr. Cowboy, who's literally just Vic's own father if he was cooler and more supportive. Also, hey, that purple dragon behind him in this scene sure does look a lot like Figment, a lesser-known Disney park character, as in figment of your imagination or imaginary friend. By far, though, the strangest imaginary friend is Foul-Mouthed Jesus, a character Cliff invented one summer at Bible camp the year his parents were getting a divorce. While it's harder to draw parallels between these two, I think I can find some. Jesus died for people's sins but rose again. Cliff died for, well, nobody's sins but his own. And now that he's risen again, is desperately trying to answer for said sins. Also, Jesus has a pretty complicated relationship with his father, and as we saw early on in this season, Cliff too has a complicated relationship with his father, one that he hopes to not have with his daughter. Miranda got to sidestep the whole imaginary friend issue though when she got recalled by the Underground. The other personas are showing that they're not stupid, and whatever game Miranda is playing won't last much longer. In fact, as we rejoin the flashback story from earlier, we see this isn't even the first time the other personalities lost faith in Miranda. You see, Miranda was all set for a housewarming party with her new hippie boyfriend. It was all going great until she discovers this was actually a swingers party, which again, considering her past filled with sexual abuse at the hands of her father, is really, really bad. But here's the real savage gut punch. Miranda ends up going along with it anyway, forsaking all the other personalities just to try and get the happy ending she wanted with this guy. And again, I gotta say, Diane Guerrero's performance here as she switches back and forth between characters is awe-inspiring. If she doesn't win all the awards at the end of this hell year, then I just don't know anymore, man. And guess what? When it's all said and done and Miranda has burned all her bridges, it's up to Jane to come on in and clean everything up for the first time. Wow, what an interesting way to backdoor an origin story. In fact, it's basically the inverse of what we got in Season 1 when we kept thinking we were getting Crazy Jane's origin story, only to find out it was Kay's origin story. Here we thought we were getting Miranda's origin story, but it was actually Jane's. Furthermore, we discover it was all the shaming from the other personas that pushed Miranda to end it all in the well. But wait, if she's really dead, then someone has been walking around in her skin this whole time. In fact, it's someone we know, Arthur Chalice, Kay's father, or at least the monster version of him from Season 1. This is admittedly a bit of a departure from the comic, but not by much. You see, in the book, Miranda's station was taken over by some kind of unknowable Lovecraftian evil so terrible that Cliff was made to close his eyes and not stare directly at it, which made about as much sense as everything else that Grant Morrison wrote. I'm okay with the change. It would also explain why Miranda's been whittling down all the other personalities all season long, so Kay will be all alone again. And hey, speaking of horrible things, and I absolutely was, we get a better understanding of what Niles had planned for his daughter in this episode. We see him with a tiny little syringe, but we're not exactly sure if it was meant to knock Dorothy out or possibly worse, and I guess we won't know for a while still. What we do know for certain, though, is that Dorothy's mother returns once again and tries to have her make a choice. Stay a child and die for sure, or grow up and have a fighting chance against the Candlemaker. Additionally, last week I talked a lot about the importance of moccasins in ancient cultures and what they represent, but a commenter was quick to say something that I may have been digging a little too deep, as I missed the obvious red shoes for Dorothy, as in red ruby slippers like her namesake from The Wizard of Oz. I thought that was kinda cool. Another cool thing to note is that when Dorothy gets to forge her own weapon to fight the Candlemaker, it's clearly made up of all the pieces of her imaginary friends, which I took to mean the show saying, hey, you can grow up but still hold on to the things from childhood that make us happy. In fact, that might make us stronger in the end. And speaking of the end, this is actually where things conclude at the absolute lowest point for everyone involved. The team is possibly dead, the Underground is in danger, and Dorothy has been sent off to meet what might very well be her own death. And we're gonna be waiting for a while for a proper conclusion. That being said, if they were gonna end it on any episode this season, I'm glad it was this one, because this is some real Empire Strikes Back stuff right here. And so there you have it, Doom Patrol for another season, and I gotta say, the show developed in some really interesting ways. Structurally, it's a totally different beast from Season 1. Niles is actually more of a central week-to-week character than he was before. Rita by far got the lion's share of development early on, and she certainly needed it. But everyone else got time to shine too, and no one really felt like they got lost in the shuffle, which is rare for a show with a cast this size, and a testament to just how interesting everyone is on their own. Furthermore, in a TV landscape overwhelmed by new comic book adaptations, Doom Patrol continues to stand shoulders above many of its contemporaries. Thanks in no small part to their commitment to be fearless, creative, subversive, and really just keeping a pure understanding of the original work and its intentions. So yeah, Season 3 when, everybody? Until then, I'm Cape Joel. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, be sure to follow me on social media so you always know what's coming out next. I have an Amazon link down in the description. Anything you buy from there goes to support me, the channel, and the creation of more videos like this one. So until next time,